and welcome back to Ryn the Bookdragon. I'm Ryn, I use they them pronouns, and I am so excited for today's video. In today's video, we're doing November's reading wrap-up, so if you want to see that, stick around. If you're new to the channel, welcome. My social medias are linked in the description box if you want to give me a follow. And let's just get into today's video. I do want to introduce you to the latest Monster High doll, and it is Ghoulia. This is the ultimate roller maze Ghoulia. So yeah, got her recently, and she's gonna just sit right here. Okay, now let's get into it. So I didn't read that much in November. I was pretty busy and went through a reading slump, so didn't read that much, but I'm gonna show you what I did read. So first book I finished was Wicked Summer Night by Tracy Lorraine, and this is basically a prequel to Wicked Night, which I read earlier this year, and this is just essentially how they first met. And because they talk about it in the in Wicked Night, how they met, but this is we actually get to see how they met. And yeah, I really liked it. It's not really much to it. It's very short. It's like a prequel to how they met, and I liked it. It is spicy for it to be a prequel. So also check your triggers on this whole series. That's what I'm gonna say with that. I also reread book 1 because I got books 2 and 3. So book 1 is Wicked Night, and it is a bully romance series. And my full thoughts on this is in my April reading wrap up, which I will link if you want to see it. It's on my main channel, but I will link it so you can see that. Yeah, and I still liked it, 5 stars still. And let's just go to the next book. Look like that. The next book I finished was Wicked Princess, which is book 2 in the series, and this one is, the first one is more of the bully part of the bully romance, and the second one tries to is the shifting between the bullying part to the romance part. Which I'm not sure if all bully romances do it, but the ones I've read did kind of that kind of pattern where it's there's more romancy parts to it. Anyway, and this one, something happened at the end of book 1, and that affects book 2, where she ends up leaving for a while. And while she's away, he's kind of going stir crazy because he wants to make sure she's okay. He wants to apologize for how he's treated her, and kind of says his feelings. Yeah, that he actually has feelings for her, and so he jumps on a plane and tries to woo her and bring her back. And other things ensue, obviously. But I don't want to say everything that happens in the book, so then you don't want to read it if you were interested in reading it. Again, check for triggers, because it's a dark romance, and that's not for everybody, especially certain triggers. I think November was dark romance month, unofficially titled, because I read a lot of them. Not sure if you're gonna be able to see it, so I'm gonna bring it closer to you. But during the month of November, I had Prime, so I could buy Christmas presents for my family. And while I had Prime, I read 2 books that were part of Prime reading. The first one being Hooked. I'm gonna bring it close enough, by Emily McIntyre, and it's not really a retelling, but a reimagined version of Peter Pan, Hook, and Wendy, where Hook is the love interest or main character. We'll say he's a love interest for the sake of this. He's a love interest, and the main character is Wendy, and her father is Peter Pan, but that's not his last name, because they change it up. And yeah, dark romance, definitely would say that. Check your triggers for this. Like, this whole month was dark romance, so there's that. And the series is the Never After series, a collection of fractured fairy tales where the villains get the happy ever after. It's not a literal retelling, and it's not fantasy. Hooked features mature themes and content that may not be suitable for all audience. I mean, because I'm like, what was this book about? I know what it's about. Give me a second, because like, this book and the series I read after this had very similar elements to it. So, Peter did something to Hook, and Hook wants revenge, and he kidnaps Wendy, and Peter doesn't even know for like the longest time, which is just like, wow. Oh, that's what he did. Oh yeah, he did do that. Oh man. So Peter did something very bad. I'm just gonna say it. He killed his parents. Well, and essentially tried to kill him because it was like a plane. So and he was the only survivor, of course. And so he ended up wanting to get revenge. Rightfully so, I would say, technically. Because he lost both of his parents in that, and Peter's not a good guy in this. I'm like trying to think of ways to like not spoil this. Wait. No, he's not kidnapped. Wait, is she? No, she is. I'm like literally getting confused because the two books that I read, not the same book, different font, but kind of, essentially. Because in this book and the one I read right after it, they were kidnapped after a night out with their friend. The other one was a little more triggering, I would say, than this one. But, now so I'm just like, I'm trying to replay it in my mind, and I'm just like, the two of them are kind of like, I'm mixing them up. If that makes sense. But I really liked it. Pretty sure I gave it 5 stars. You know, and it made me want to read the rest of the series. They're Scarred, Wretched, and Twisted. They all sound pretty good. I'm probably going to read all of them at some point. But yeah, that probably did not sound like a really good book. I saw it on Book Talk at one point. I didn't have money to buy it at that point. But I made mental notes. And eventually was like, oh, it's on Prime Reading, and decided to check it out, and it was really good. When I was reading it, I did imagine that James Killian from Once Upon a Time was Hook. It didn't take away from the whole story. Just thought I'd add that in there. But the next book I read, I definitely wouldn't suggest reading them back to back, only because they're similar, but both of them are good. I'm pretty sure I gave both of them 5 stars. They're both good, but they're very similar, and Yeah, I just want to say that they're very similar in the not the whole thing, There's the main points are the same, but the execution, there's different parts in it that makes them very different books. Little Bird is the next one by Rhea Wild. This one's a duet, and I did read both of them, but I read this one first, obviously. The second one is Twisted King, and I read the duology, which is called Twisted City. Anyway, and it is about Ryn, who is technically, we'll say, a mafia princess, but she doesn't know that. And the person who raised her, who she believed was her father, was not actually her father. And her father kept her at a distance to the point where she didn't even know who he was. But Alexander, the king of the city, the Twisted City, we don't know the name of the city, they never name it, finds out that his enemy has a daughter that he's been hiding away, and decides to take her and use her as leverage. And they end up falling in love. A lot of traumatic things happen. So definitely check your triggers for that. Hopefully it says... Okay. This is a dark romance, contains themes common in dark romances, including kidnap, violence, drugs, alcohol use, sexual content, and strong language. That's not... There's also, like... But when it says sexual content, it goes into the triggering kind. Just want to say that, have the emphasis on that. And not recommended for readers under the age of 18. Book ends on a cliffhanger, which, yes. I don't usually like when books end on a cliffhanger, but they tend to do that when it's like a series, and I never really know it's a cliffhanger until, like, it gets to that point. Like, I'm like, where's the climax of the book? At the end. But I really liked it because I was able to get the duology and get them both at the same time. It's just cheaper in the long run. Really liked it. Ends on a cliffhanger, and it brings us to Twisted King, which I read. And while I don't want to tell you what happens, because it not really, if you don't like surprises, you'll be fine. If you hate when people ruin books, here's Twisted King. In Twisted King, what happens in the end of book 1, he ends up... I have to tell you what happens only because it's one of my favorite tropes of all time. I think it's one of the reasons why I got into dark romance, reading more of them, because of this trope, where she gets taken and he, like, destroys a city trying to get her back, or like does everything possible to get her back. You know, that's just like one of my favorite things reading. And every time I read it, I'm like, this is really good. So if you like that trope, Twisted King has that. Check it out. Other things happen. Between Hooked and the Twisted City, they kind of end on the same goal. Whatever, like the ending they kind of parallel, you know. And so that's why reading them back to back wouldn't necessarily suggest, unless you like, hey, I already know this is gonna parallel. But I would space them out a little bit. I still liked the books. I'm just like saying that for other people, because I didn't know that until I was like getting into it. I was like, after I finished like it, I was like, This kind of reminds me of Hooked, which isn't bad. And it is like a dark romance, and they have like similar like tropes to them. Just reading them, like I didn't realize I was going to be reading so many dark romances in November, and that they were going to kind of be similar to them, because I usually like change up my reading, my like not really tropes, subcategories of romance every few books. But this time I was just like, dark romance it is, and just kind of went, jumped in head first for it. But yeah, that's all I read in November. Again, wasn't that much, but and it wasn't this month. Like this month, I haven't finished a book yet, and it is the 14th. I just haven't been in a reading slump. I think after reading those really good books, I just like, right now I am reading something that is kind of interesting. It's YA, which I haven't read in a while. I don't read them that often. So, wait, when was the last time I read it? Last one I read was probably in September or October. But yeah, I'm also like listening to an audiobook while I'm reading the book. Now, I can't listen to audiobooks without reading the book because my brain will literally zone out, because I'm used to doing that when I have stuff talking to me. So I have to actually have the book in front of me in order to read it. But it's pretty good so far, and hopefully I'll finish it this month, and you can hear all about it in the new season, the new year, my bad. But yeah, that is all for today's video. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification notified when I upload. Try to upload on Sundays on this channel. My social medias are linked in the description box if you want to give me a follow. And until next time, drink some water, eat a snack, read a book, let a platform, and enjoy the rest of the holiday season. Bye!
The Christmas tree's on fire, Santa's holding the lighter, my parents are both liars, I got gifts but one subscribers, thanks for the candy basket, oh got another jacket, my stocking's filled with acid, am I dreaming, what just happened?